Really, it's my pleasure to introduce you guys to Brian Cornell today. Brian is the chairman and CEO of Target Corporation, based in Minneapolis, and one of the largest retailers in the U.S. with 1,800 stores and over 300,000 team members, including me at one point. Since joining Target in 2014, Brian has been really busy leading a transformation of the business, which has included remodeling hundreds of stores, investing in digital fulfillment, and launching many new Target exclusive brands, many of which my wife is constantly buying. Target recently reported its most successful year-over-year performance in well over a decade. In addition to Target, Brian also served as chairman of the board for Young Brands and has previously served as a director for other global brands, including the Home Depot and Polaris. Please join me in welcoming Brian.
Good afternoon, and I'm going to tell you it's really an honor to be here. And looking around the room today, I'll start by letting you know that had this been a meeting in 2016 or 2017, Eric, there was not a lot of interest in hearing from retail CEOs. Because just a couple of years ago, the headlines were pretty clear. Physical retail was going to go away. And when I talked to many investors and shareholders, or if you watch some of the business programs like CNBC or Bloomberg, it was just a couple of years ago they said, physical retail is uninvestable. It's simply going to go away. Well, Merrill, I think we know that's actually not the case. And I'll start off by telling you it's a very different landscape today. And over the course of the next few minutes, Eric and I are just going to have a simple conversation. But hopefully I can talk to you about the state of retail today, what's happening for companies that are succeeding in this new environment, a little bit about our Target story, certainly a big story around why we were so attracted to this amazing company called Shipt that Bill Smith developed. And then I want to open it up for questions that might be on your mind. But it's great to be here and see so many of you interested in hearing from a physical retailer that now has a very big digital footprint, as well as hundreds and hundreds of stores around the country. So thank you for joining us today.
So let's start with your take on the state of the retail industry. The headlines seem to be mixed. You have the Amazons and Walmarts of the world. They seem to be getting stronger. But we're also reading a lot about closures and contractions. So what's your outlook and how does Target start?
So I'll step back and I will go back to the landscape back in 2017. And back then, there was a lot of question about how the consumer was going to shop in the future. Would there be a place for physical retailers? Standing here today in April of 2019, I think what we're seeing, Eric, is there are winners and losers. And unfortunately, there are hundreds and hundreds of stores closing. So many iconic brands have gone away. So the question is, what's happening? Why are there winners? Why have some iconic brands like Toys R Us been forced to close their doors? And I think the winners in retail today are companies that, one, have the resources, have the balance sheet to invest in their physical stores. And what we've learned is consumers still like to shop at physical stores. In fact, despite all the headlines, standing here today in the United States, 85% of all the retail spending in the U.S. is still done in a physical store. But consumers want to shop physical stores that offer a great experience, that are well lit, that have great customer service, that have inspiring merchandise, and those that can invest are seeing traffic growth. Unfortunately, the retailers that have chosen to try to save their way to the next quarter and didn't invest in their stores, didn't remodel, didn't bring innovation, didn't invest in digital, well, one by one, they're closing their doors. So I think we're seeing a landscape that's filled with new winners And I'll talk a little bit about the Target journey. We think we've moved into that winner's column. Those that have been forced to close their stores, and others that are still trying to figure out the path forward to prosper in this new environment. But the consumer is still shopping retail stores, but they want it to be a great experience with great product and services, great value. And if you offer that, once again, we're starting to see physical retail growth.
So a follow-up to that, not everything has gone perfectly. Talk a little bit about your experience in Canada.
Yeah. So I'll go back, we were talking before lunch. I've been with Target for just about 5 years now. And I will share with all of you, including some of my Target team members, there are certain days it feels more like 25 years. I feel like I spent my entire career with this great iconic company. But I joined Target 5 years ago, right after the data breach. And I walked into an organization that had years and years of tremendous success, and now had this huge blemish on its reputation, and had to restore trust with the consumer. At the same time, we had decided to expand outside of the US, and for the first time, move into a new market, and we went north to Canada. And as opposed to going in slowly, we decided to open up over 130 stores, build 3 new distribution centers, hire almost 20,000 new team members overnight, and flip the switch. And unfortunately, we went really fast without truly understanding the needs of the consumer in Canada, the differences in markets like Montreal versus Vancouver. We didn't bring the same great Target experience to that market. And one of my very first challenges when I arrived was deciding, what do we do to turn around this Canadian business that for several years they've been losing close to $800 million a year. And this was a fairly significant challenge. I had a board asking me, what are you going to do? How quickly can we turn this around? And we spent a lot of time talking to the consumer in the market, talking to our team, but I quickly recognized during the holiday season of 2014 that we had lost the trust of the Canadian consumer. In many cases, we had offended them because they had such great expectations and we under-delivered against it. And was forced to recommend to our board in the spring of 2015 that we should exit the market, cut our losses. I had projected it was going to be at least 2021 before we would break even. And I did that not only because it was the right thing to do at that time in the Canadian market, where there was no path to success, but I did it because I knew we had to double down our focus on the US market and make sure all of our talents, all of our resources, all of our capital could be redeployed in a US market that was going through tremendous change and disruption, driven by people like Amazon, and this new way of shopping that was emerging around the US. So it hasn't always been easy. And exiting the Canadian market was perhaps the most difficult decision of my entire career. But it was the right thing for the company at that time. And I actually don't think we'd be standing here talking about having the best year that our company has had in over a decade had we not put all of our focus, all of our talent, all of our resources against the US market.
So let's talk about that. Last November, Q3 report, the stock took a 15% hit. The company reported that Target was in the early stages of investing in inventory replenishment and store remodeling. Since then, given the outstanding performance of the stock, it's now $83 a share, 15 times forward. And if you look from a historical standpoint, it's pretty close to the $88, which was the height. And so, do you believe that investors are finally getting it in terms that your strategies are in fact working?
Well, I think they are, but it's taken some time. And I'll give you another little history lesson, one of the days over the last 5 years that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And coming out of Canada, thinking about the future of the US, we have an annual investor event. host something like this in New York City once a year. And in February, the 28th of February of 2017 to be exact, those dates in your life that you just actually can never forget, we brought our investors together to talk about a new plan for Harvard. And one of the things that I'll remember for a long time was sitting in my hotel room as we were pushing the button to send out our press release to talk about our guidance for the year, our investment plans, and highlight some of the things I was going to talk to investors about later that morning. And we pushed the button. I'm intently watching TNBC as they're reading the press release. And Becky Quick, the anchor on their morning show, is looking at it saying, I think there must be a typo in Target's press release today. Because their CEO is saying they're going to spend $7 billion of capital, $7 billion, over the next 3 years to remodel stores, to build new stores, to invest in technology, and it goes on to say they're going to invest $1 million of operating income on their team. They're going to hire more team members, they're going to pay a higher wage, and they're going to invest in training. And her response was, this can't possibly be right, because no one's investing in retail. Why would anyone invest in remodeling stores, let alone build new stores? And most people are cutting costs and laying people off. They're saying they're going to invest in their team. Well, as you can imagine, it wasn't very well received that day. And as I stood in front of several hundred of our shareholders, thousands more listening online, I am watching our stock price decline in the back. And I had the great fortune at noon that day to be interviewed live by CNBC. And they had some pretty provocative questions, including, well, Brian, how long do you think you're going to last in this job? Because this is a plan that really can't work. Don't you know stores are going away? Do you realize that no one's building new stores? Why are you investing in your team? So it does feel a little different today when most of our shareholders and most of the analysts would say the reason we rebuilt momentum, that we're seeing our traffic grow in our stores, and in 2018 our traffic was up over 5%, more footsteps in our stores, more cars in our parking lot. Our physical stores have been growing again at a very strong rate. Our digital business has grown over 25% for the last 5 years. We're growing market share across all of our major categories. And we had our highest earnings per share in company history last year. But it's been a long journey. And we had to deliver proof points and really prove to our shareholders and the investment community that there was a role for physical stores, but they had to be reimagined, had to be exciting, had to be a real reason you wanted to shop. It had to be combined with a great digital presence and new fulfillment capabilities that I'll talk about like Shift. We needed exciting new brands, but we also needed team members, our team, to be excited and confident in the future. And of all the investments we made, the most important investment we made was in the team.
Talk a little bit about that, because I admire, you are the front line of this debate in terms of minimum wage. And you have chosen to set your wage at $11 a share with a target towards $15 a share. Talk about what that means for the company and how your 360,000 employees have responded to that.
Well, again, as part of our transformational announcement, we said we're going to get out in front of minimum wage. And we made a commitment to move our starting minimum wage across every market in the country to $15 by 2020. We're already very close to that mark today. But it was because we know the importance of our team, making sure they were invested in the company, beyond just the wages, investing in training so that they had careers, giving them opportunities in specialized roles. We also, over the last couple of years, have taken a different path with data and engineering and have insourced thousands and thousands of engineering jobs, brought them back to our company, opened up a center in Sunnyvale, California for data scientists and people who specialize in machine learning. We now have thousands of engineers in Minneapolis, and we thought it was important to invest in our team. So the wages are important so that we attract top talent, and we want to be the employer of choice in retail. But to do that, we had to start with wages, make sure people knew we were investing in their careers. That means investing in training and opportunities, and really also investing in diversity and inclusion, which is a very important part of who we are. And it's something that perhaps I'm most proud of as the chairman and CEO of the company. 6 of my direct reports are women. 30% of our board is comprised of women, 40% are diverse. So we reflect the consumer that we serve, and I think that's very important to a company like ours.
You also show tremendous leadership on the national scale in the retail industry, and you've been called to testify. And there's a lot of debate in Washington about trade and tariffs. You've got a significant flow of merchandise from China. So how do you see this response?
Obviously, it is an active and dynamic discussion right now. And depending on the week, we're seeing different scenarios unfold. The reason I was so personally involved a couple of years ago was as part of corporate tax reform. We were asked to work with the Ways and Means Committee and represent what happens to the overall consumer in the United States, depending on how they were bringing tax reform forward. And at one point during the tax reform debate, there was a provision called the border adjustment tax. And what that simply meant was for any company doing business in the United States, any item that you were going to import into the United States, you would no longer be able to deduct the cost of goods sold associated with that item. So for our company, but for most of our peers in retail, Target had been paying an effective tax rate of 35% for years, the maximum tax rate. Had the border adjustment tax been put in place, and we would have been excluding anything we bought from outside the U.S., our tax rate would have gone to 70%. A pretty tough discussion with shareholders. For a few of our peers, literally all of their operating income would have gone away. But when I talked to Congress about, and what we talked to the administration about, was not just the impact on our earnings for the industry, it was really the impact it was going to have on the millions and millions of American families we serve. We have 30 million shoppers in our stores each and every week. Had the border adjusted tax been put in place as part of the overall tax reform bill, it would have been families paying higher costs, we had estimated 15 to 20%, for basic goods that they need to buy each and every week. From food to school supplies, the basic household essentials. It was going to be the consumer that was going to pay that bill. And that's why we decided, and I personally decided to get so involved and engaged, not just for our company, but for all the families that depend on us each and every week, and to make sure that Congress heard the implications that this bill could have had on the families across this country that depend on great value on those household essential items each and every week of the year.
Getting to the bottom line is always important. The question for the company is the responsibility in the community. Let's talk a little bit about what Target has done and some of the goals where you want to give back 5%.
So one of the things that we don't talk a lot about publicly, but we were having this conversation before I stood up, is for a company like ours, the local community is really important. That's why we invest here in Birmingham and in countries and cities around the country. But since 1962, when we opened up that very first store in Minneapolis, the founding Dayton family that started this company said we should give back 5% of all of our pre-tax profits. And the reason for that was their belief that if we're investing in the communities we serve, in the charities that are important to that community, if we can make those communities better and more prosperous, it's good for the community, but but it's also going to be good for us. And even today, despite challenges that we face, we've never wavered from that commitment to giving back 5% of our profits each and every week to communities across the country. And in addition, one of the things that we really try to elevate is talking to our team, those 360,000 employees we have across the country, about the importance of volunteering. And for the last 3 years, our teams have volunteered more than 1 million hours of community service across the country, working with different organizations as we've renovated schools and playgrounds and participated in disaster relief. So it's a combination of the dollars, which are critically important, but those hours are really meaningful. And they really are meaningful to our team members who recognize the role we play and the impact we can have when we've got our teams in red and khaki out there working side by side with local communities.
Let's talk a little bit about your operational strategies. Target is known across the industry for partnerships, from designer collaborations to your partnerships with CDS and the healthcare space. How does SHIFT, important to all of us, how does SHIFT fit into Target's overall strategy?
Well, we've had a long history of partnerships, whether it's things we do with great brands like Lilly Pulitzer. For those of you who don't know it, we've got a great new collaboration coming up in a couple weeks in May with Vineyard Vines, where we'll have hundreds of unique items from Vineyard Vines with Target's influence in the design available in our stores. And we partnered with people like Starbucks and CVS. But when we decided to partner with Bill and Chip, it was really a game-changing partnership for us. And it gets back to kind of our operational strategy and how we're trying to compete and differentiate in this new retail environment. In addition to investing in our stores and building new, smaller, urban stores that are just following consumers as they move back downtown across the country, we recognize that today's consumer is looking for ease and convenience. And we wanted to make Target America's easiest place to shop. So over the last few years, we've been investing in the technology, the platforms to allow any of you right now to pull out your phone and place an order with Target, and 2 hours later, walk into our store and pick up that order. Now in over 1,000 locations, you can use your same mobile device and go to Target.com, and as opposed to coming in, particularly if you're a young mom, after school with a couple of kids that might be in the back seat, falling asleep, and you don't want to get them out, you can just pull into our drive-up lane, and in under 2 minutes, we'll have your order in your trunk so you can drive away. But we also recognize that to compete in today's environment, we wanted to take that human touch that we think is so important and bring it right to the kitchen counter. And as we started to get to know Bill and this extraordinary vision Bill had for changing the shopping experience and building relationships with consumers across the country, we were really intrigued with the SHIFT model. And Bill's heard me talk about this before. I think he still described it this way. I saw a business model where I saw moms shopping for other moms with real care, with an interaction as they were walking through a store, sending a text message saying, I couldn't find one of the items on your list. Can I substitute something else? Or I'm about to check out, is there anything else you need? Or I'm ready to drive to your house, I'll be there in 10 minutes. Should I ring the doorbell? Or since I know you just had a baby a few months ago, should I knock softly so that I don't wake up that child? So we saw the best of both this digital world coming together with the importance of human touch. And from a Target standpoint, we said, this is a business we should own. We should partner with SHIFT and Bill to help expand. We knew, when you heard Bill's introduction, I knew from the day I met Bill, having dinner with him right here in Birmingham, that we were only renting him. That it would only be a matter of time before he would get that itch to create this next great company. But it's been a great partnership. He had the vision to create a unique business model that fits perfectly with Target. And since our acquisition in December of 2017, we've expanded across the country to over 200 markets. We have tens of thousands of ship shoppers on the street. We're seeing a great response from consumers across the country, great growth. I'm really excited that with Bill's departure, we brought one of our top executives here to Birmingham, and that's Kelly Cruz. I might ask Kelly to stand. Kelly's been the CEO Birmingham in record time. You know, she arrived one day. I asked her the next day, "What are you thinking about?" "Oh, Ryan, I have a home I'll be closing in the next few weeks." She has not stopped smiling since we asked her to take on this role. She's still smiling right there. I've seen pictures and videos. And she shares Bill's vision that there's a great opportunity to continue to build this. We're going to build it right here in Birmingham, and we'll be creating hundreds and hundreds of new jobs, moving into some new office space. But we recognize that we have something really special, and we're going to continue to build this out. And it gives Target a unique point of difference versus some of the people you mentioned that might be based in Seattle, Washington. We have great physical stores you can shop. You can order online and come by immediately and pick up that package. You can pull into our parking lot and we'll put it right in your trunk. But if you really want someone to do the shopping for you at Target and now dozens and dozens of other retailers, one of our ship shoppers will do that for you and pull up to your front door and be there with your shopping order. And we think in today's environment, that's a huge competitive advantage for us. And it's going to spark growth for years to come.
Excellent. Can you talk a little bit about your career at Target and how your leadership philosophy has influenced operations?
Well, I've taken you through some of the highs and lows. And it's been an exciting 5 years. It's been the best 5 years of my career. And I feel really fortunate to work for an iconic company that has a real purpose. And we talk about, for our company, the importance of purpose. And we wake up every day just trying to think about how we bring a little bit of joy to all those millions of families we serve each and every day. And having a company that has over 360,000 team members, generates well over now $75 billion of sales, it's a huge responsibility. And there's a shareholder responsibility, there's a responsibility to my board, but most importantly, there's a responsibility to the team. And as I've already said, while a lot of the capital expenditures are important, and the things we're doing from a physical store and a technology standpoint are important, what really makes this company work are the people. And I wake up every day thinking about how we make this a great environment for our team that's going to provide careers for years to come, and that we're attracting and retaining great talent. And I probably spend a third of my time each and every week with our teams thinking about talent development, how we retain talent, how we develop talent, and how we have the leaders, not just for the next few years, but for years to come, to guide this company into the future. So I think at the end of the day, the thing I've learned, it always comes down to people.
It's people first. We have had a good chat together. Let's include others in the conversation. Who would like to ask the first question? Right there.
You talked about diversity and the importance of diversity in your company, and you've become a national leader in diversity and inclusion. Can you talk about that? A lot of people talk about diversity and inclusion, and it's just talk, but it's obvious that it's real at Target. Can you speak to that?
So the question was, I talked about diversity being very important to the company. I am pleased that we're recognized as a company that's made real progress in the space. We've been very involved in a number of different groups to make sure we're continuing to learn and share what we've learned about diversity. I'll start with, it's really hard work. And it can't be done episodically. It has to be something that's ingrained in your culture, that you're focused on each and every day. For a company like ours, it might be a little easier because I have a personal philosophy that our workforce should reflect the consumers we serve. And we serve millions of families. In fact, 85% of America shops in a Target store every year. So we serve all of America. And we try to make sure our teams reflect the consumers we serve. Obviously, we have an amazing relationship with moms and families. Over half of our 1,850 stores right now are led by female executives. And if I brought my officer team in here, the top 150 leaders in the company, you've seen an incredibly diverse organization. So we try to make sure our teams reflect the consumer we serve, that we think about how we continue to enrich our commitment to diversity every day, but we spend just as much time thinking about inclusion and making sure as we build this diverse culture at Target, everyone feels like they have a place and they feel welcome. They can be their true self each and every day in our organization. But the answer is it requires an ongoing commitment throughout the organization. It can't just be the CEO. It has to be something that filters throughout the organization. And I think that's where we've made our most progress, is making sure everyone understands why it's important, the role it plays, how it's going to make us a better company, and ultimately how it's going to influence our performance and our ability to retain and attract great talent.
Other questions? Right.
So when you're locating a new part of your business, particularly in the back office and logistics, what are you looking for from states and county and local government in order to make sure you're going to be successful with those expansions that you do?
Well, I'll start with one. We have a very strong commitment to our home state in Minnesota. But as we expand around the country, we want to make sure that we have access to great talent. We try to make sure, particularly as we've been opening up new stores in urban centers, we spend a lot of time with local mayors, with the local chambers, with aldermen across the country to make sure they know when we open up a new store, on average it's going to create about 250 new jobs. And over the last 5 years, we've gone from really not operating in any urban markets. The history of our company was to put a 140,000 square foot stores like we have here in Birmingham, out in suburban parcels. But we also know, as we travel around the country, the U.S. consumer is migrating back to urban centers. They're moving to new downtown developments and selling the house and moving into a condo and spending more time walking in those areas. Well, we've had to learn how to operate in those new environments, and we had to prove to local officials we were going to be good neighbors, that we were going to come in there and represent the community, have the right products and services for those communities, hire, provide career growth opportunities. So we had to go out there and tell our story. Now in 2019, we get a lot of inbound calls. People saying, hey, we know you're opening up stores in urban centers. We've got a new development or a new redevelopment. We'd love to have you as part of that. But we've got to make sure that at the local level, they know the role we're going to play, that we're going to be great local citizens, that we're going to make investments in the community, that we're going to give back, and we're going to volunteer and provide support. So we've spent a lot of time telling those stories, and now it's nice that the phone call is coming our way saying, boy, Brian, there's a great new development in this city. We'd actually like to be part of it because we've heard what you've done in other parts of the country.
Thank you.
Is there an international plan? Would you go back to Canada, or what would take you beyond the U.S.?
It is one of the most frequent questions I get, including from our team. And I'll answer it the same way I've been answering it for several years now. Today, we have a big U.S. agenda. And while we can talk about the progress we've made, and it's nice to see our growth on track, if not ahead of most of our peers in the industry, and the fact that we're being rewarded by shareholders, we're still in the very early stages. If you're a football fan, whether that's a Alabama or Auburn fan, we're still in the first quarter. And we've got a few points on the board, but we haven't even got halftime in executing our current strategy. Over time, are there opportunities to go outside the U.S.? Absolutely. And if there's one thing that I wish I could have changed, I wish I would have been a target earlier as we were contemplating our move into Canada, because we should have won it. The Canadian consumer loved the brand. They gave us really high marks when they experienced the brand in the U.S. Had we gone slowly and methodically and understood more about that market, I think we could have been very successful. And we've got lots of years in front of us. So who knows, someday we might be knocking on some new international market doors. But for now, first quarter, we got to stay really focused on executing our current playbook. And once we get to halftime, I'll let you know where we go from here.
Yes, sir.
Some of the best press that Target has gotten in recent years has been thanks to its limited edition partnerships with high-end brands, namely Missoni. I think there were lines to buy Missoni products. Many of them ended up instantly on eBay, and it was covered across the country. Today's show, Good Morning America. Are these partnerships profitable in terms of the bottom line, or is it more profitable as a PR tactic?
Yeah, a combination of both. So I'm going to fast forward. I'll make a rare prediction. When we open up our limited time collection with Vineyard Vines on May 18th, we're going to bring Black Friday and the Christmas holiday spirit into our stores that day. Because consumers love the experience, they love the design, the quality, and the value we offer. So short term, is it meaningful? Yes. But the real benefits are just longer term, just reinforcing our commitment to style, that Target experience, having, again, millions of consumers knocking on our door that day who say, well, I'm just going to keep coming back because while I was there, I saw 10 other things that I'd really like to buy. So they're very important short term, but the long-term benefits are hard to measure. But we know they're tangible, we know they're real, and we know it keeps elevating the brand. And it's something that we do better than most of our peers. We have a great reputation for it, and our consumer loves it when we bring a unique brand into Target and deliver great quality but a stunning value when we do it.
Will Bradley.
I was interested to see you serve on the Home Depot board, and I'm wondering if that's one of the places that shaped your philosophy about training. Because when I go in a Home Depot store, the associates are helpful, knowledgeable, capable employees, much more so than
Well, the answer is a big yes, and I've got enormous respect for their company. I had a chance to get to know the founders of the company, Bernie Marcus and Ken Langone. I joined that board during a very difficult time, during the last recession, during the housing downturn. And I can tell you for that company, it was a pretty difficult time. Many consumers had recognized that the investments they made in their home, well, they were no longer appreciating. They were depreciating each and every day. And many consumers across the country had literally stopped investing. We did focus groups at Home Depot. I'll always remember people saying, I'm not planting flowers this year because it's just another $20 that I'm wasting on my home. But they stayed very committed to training their people and bringing in great service, and they knew that things were going to change over time. And the strategy that Frank Blake and that management team put in place was a pretty bold decision during a time where I think their stock had dropped from $100 to $22. I think it's over $200 again today. And they said, we're going to stop giving guidance. We're going to invest in the long term. We're going to go around and hire as many experienced plumbers and electricians and former landscapers that are looking to work for us part-time or full-time. And they won back the consumer when the economy turned and people started to invest in their homes. So I've got great admiration for the fabric of that company, the culture of the company, the bold decisions they made. And they made a choice to invest in their team when others were backing away, and it certainly played out pretty well for them. But it's a great American company. that has executed and been rewarded for it over the last few years.
How about back here? Any questions on this side? Well, go ahead. Yes.
When you talked about your urban concept, what size market are you looking at? Would you consider Birmingham?
Well, we're looking at lots of different urban settings and on college campuses. So when I think about our urban strategy, what I should have conveyed is it also means a very different target experience. So as opposed to that full-size store, think about shopping in a Target that's 30,000 square feet. That doesn't have 80,000 items to choose from. It might have 18. So it's curated for the local market. We make sure that we're in vibrant centers where we're seeing population growth. But we're also opening up on college campuses across America. And we're seeing a great response from those college students. And similar to one of the other questions, there's both a short-term and a long-term benefit. Short-term, we're seeing great sales growth in those college stores and college towns. But I'm hopeful 20 years from now that college students who filled their dorm with snacks and bought different items each and every week at the Target store will go to Target to furnish their first apartment. When they have their first child, they'll be getting their stroller and car seat from Target. When it's time to send kids to school, Target will be that future destination. When they're looking to buy Christmas gifts 20 years from now, they'll remember, well, Target's the place I've always shopped. So, short term, they're really working well for us. But long term, we want to make sure we have a relationship with college students that lasts a lifetime. And it starts with being part of those 4, sometimes 5 great years they spend on college campuses. All years we got to do before, right?
Right. So we've got time for a couple more questions, right here. Yes, sir.
No question, just a statement. As a lifelong Birminghamian, I want to tell you I'm sure that I speak for everyone in this room. Thank you for believing in one of our own and taking Birmingham to the next level. Kudos to you, sir.
I want to come back to some of the things that I learned from Bill Smith. And I think everyone here knows this. But Bill has an amazing commitment to Birmingham. And the first couple of times I met with Bill, it's all he talked about was the fact that this was his home, this was going to be his home. He was building businesses here, and he's an amazing advocate for this community. So I think we should recognize Bill.
So who wants to ask the last question?
Kelly?
Kelly? Yes. Go ahead, back there.
I wanted you to know I became a Target customer because you recycle my blood.
Any last questions? Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
So Brian, to show our appreciation for your presentation today, we will make contributions to the Rotary International Foundation in support of the work that we do here at the Thank you very much for taking the time to see you. We all enjoy.